In the spring of 1990, the $1.5 billion Hubble Space Telescope was loaded into Space Shuttle Discovery's payload bay, and on April 24th was sent aloft to be deployed to Earth orbit on STS-31.
Capcom, we have a go for release. Discovery, go for Hubble release.
Okay, we have a go for release.
As envisioned, Hubble would return never-before-seen images detailing our universe as it was millions upon millions of years before. Soon it would become clear that Hubble pictures were not.
Several days later, if not a couple of weeks, we found out, after we were back on Earth, that it had a problem with its vision. And most of us were just devastated, that here we had this marvelous instrument that we had put on orbit and it was going to be useless. It turned out that it wasn't useless at all, because even with its flaw, it was still a much better telescope than anything that we had, on Earth.
A shuttle mission dedicated to the telescope's repair was planned. In essence, Hubble's nearsightedness would be corrected with a new pair of glasses.
Liftoff of the Space Shuttle Endeavour on an ambitious mission to surface the Hubble Space Telescope.
We finally flew STS-61, which was the first Hubble servicing mission. Absolutely incredible mission.
Clearly we have a dynamic situation.
You cannot take the 84-inch mirror out of the telescope. It's part of structure, too big, it's there. So by putting in one box called CoStar, we're able to correct the aberrated light for 5 other instruments.
Of all the space shuttle missions we've flown, it was without a doubt the most ambitious flight, but the one that I think demonstrated NASA's can-do attitude, its technological skill, its technical capability, and the spirit of its people.
2 teams of astronauts made a record 5 back-to-back spacewalks to refurbish Hubble and realize her potential to awe and astound. While Hubble servicing missions were very important, the true gift of a maneuverable shuttle was soon realized in a very different rescue mission.
Booster ignition and liftoff of the maiden voyage of Endeavour on a satellite rescue mission.
Months earlier, in May of 1992, the 7 astronauts of STS-49 overcame initial setbacks to pluck the $180 million Intel Sat-6 communications satellite from an unusable orbit.
It was going to be a very simple rendezvous, get close, bring the satellite down close and grapple it with the remote manipulator system. Everything that could go wrong went wrong.
We got up there to capture it. The bar, we tapped the satellite with the bar, and the satellite started moving out of control.
Get me in. Pitch me over. Into the arm. Watch the end of the arm.
That's a singularity again.
You're going to have to get out of there.
It can be very difficult catching something like a tumbling satellite in space. The slightest touch or mistouch by the astronaut with the equipment, and you can send that satellite tumbling.
Here, make sure that when you want me to yaw right, you say yaw right. Okay. Any other time right, it's just right. Yeah, that's what I'm doing. Okay. We're moving.
And so it was very touch and go on that mission, actually.
Commander Dan Brandenstein and pilot Kevin Chilton are preparing for the upcoming terminal initiate burn.
After several days of failed attempts with Endeavour's remote arm, Commander Dan Brandenstein literally tries a new approach.
Yeah, real easy, guys. Real easy. Don't bring us any closer, Dan. Okay, I'm stopping it.
At Endeavour's helm, Brandenstein delicately maneuvers the orbiter up to the 4.5-ton Intel Sat-6.
The satellite is rolling out of control in 3 different axes at once, and you could actually fly the shuttle and fly this maneuver around and keep it aligned with it.
It's got to be the neutral point right here.
3 people grabbed 18,000 pounds.
Aware that any miscue could endanger not only the satellite but also the ride home, spacewalkers Pierre Thuot, Tom Akers, and Rick Heeb reach out and secure the satellite by hand.
Okay. Wait. Let's do it. Got it. Easy. Give it some time. Give it time. All got a good grip? Yes, sir. Houston, I think we got a satellite.
Yeah, nice job, guys.
Intelsat 6 is released from the cargo bay with a new mini-rocket motor for a gentle push to its proper orbit, where it remains today, fully functional. And as the shuttle program matured, so it seemed did relationships between the world's spacefaring nations. On STS-47, the 50th Space Shuttle mission saw the orbiter Endeavour back in space on September 12, 1992. The mission was a cooperative Spacelab venture between Japan and the United States that brought the first Japanese astronaut into orbit as a member of the 7-person shuttle crew.
The Space Shuttle has launched people from different nations around this world that used to feel they could never, ever work together. And it has ushered us from the Cold War to this really cooperative space program that we have with our international partners, including the former Soviet Union.
Regardless of what language you speak and love space, and that's pretty cool. We have a lot in common with engineers and scientists around the world, and that's kind of fun to work in a program like this.
On February 3, 1995, Eileen Collins, the first woman to pilot a shuttle, was at the helm as Discovery gave the U.S. its first up-close look at the Mir space station. Collins flew the shuttle through a series of intricate maneuvers, approaching within 37 feet of the Russian spacecraft, and later performing a fly-around by hand.
And liftoff of the Space Shuttle Atlantis on a mission that will herald a new day of international cooperation in space.
4 months later, on June 27, 1995, Shuttle Atlantis would lift off from the Kennedy Space Center to begin STS-71, the U.S. space program's 100th human space mission. It would take 2 more days before Atlantis caught up with and performed the first shuttle docking with the Mir space station.
Houston, Atlantis, we have captured.
Orbiting 220 miles above the Earth, a most unique and historic celebration took place as the Mir space station welcomed its first American guests. Cosmonauts and astronauts together broke figurative bread, tortillas and fruit to be exact, in a renewed spirit of cooperation. Together, Shuttle and Mir formed the largest flying spacecraft the world had yet to see. It tipped the scales at 250 metric tons, more than 500,000 pounds. Between 1994 and 98, the Shuttle Mir program would involve 11 shuttle missions, including in 1996 STS-76, which began a continuous U.S. presence aboard the Russian space station with a visit by Atlantis. Barely fluent in Russian, astronaut Shannon Lucid, a biochemist, embarked upon a mission that would dramatically enhance our understanding of life in space. When she finally landed at Edwards Air Force Base on Shuttle Atlantis, she held the female space endurance record for spending 188 days in orbit. A hero's welcome was in store.
I'm here to say welcome home to Shannon Lucid.
By the time Shuttle Mir ended with STS-91, 7 American astronauts had completed extended stays aboard the Russian space station.
Tatiana Mativa, who I became very good friends with, and I remember us sitting in Red Square having dinner together with a full moon, and remembering when I was a child all those parades, those May Day parades with the tanks going by, and here we were sitting there having a nice dinner under the full moon and with a lot of friendship. So it just goes to show how space can unite people, and that's I think one of the biggest benefits.
8 cosmonauts had flown to Mir on the U.S. shuttle, and NASA astronaut Norm Thagard had become the first American to fly there or anywhere aboard a Soyuz spacecraft. In 2001, 15 years after its commissioning, Mir would be abandoned to break up and burn in Earth's atmosphere. By then, the process of building upon Mir's legacy of international cooperation in space had already begun.